So since we're kind of like hanging out and we have a lot of time to put stuff together and create some content, I thought I'd address some of the less frequently asked questions, but still questions that get asked about like fashion and dressing up and all that kind of stuff, especially when you're back. And there is a topic that does come up that I think a lot of dudes don't know a lot about, and that's the topic of ties. The topic of ties, like wearing a tie. I'm not wearing a tie right now. I'm at home. I mean, we're quarantined, but I realize obviously we're wearing ties less and less, but there are environments that absolutely require it, and there are times that absolutely require it. And when those times come up, like the worst thing is when you're running out and you don't have that right tie to put on. So basically, you just want to have a tie to cover your major color palettes. You want to have your blue, your green, your pink, your red, your purple, your taupe, and probably like a good black tie to go with your gray suit. So ties are pretty simple, but, and we always put off buying them. But the reality is we do need like 8 to 10 good ties in our rotation. And let's define what a good tie is. So I'll make it real simple. There are 2 ways of making tie fabric, okay? And when I say 2 ways, I mean the pattern and the color. And that is you either print a tie or you dye a tie. What does that mean? So print or woven would be the correct way to describe it. So a printed tie means you take a blank slate and then you print the pattern and a color on it once the tie is already more or less finished, once the cloth is already made. And a woven tie is actually woven with threads that already are containing the color and the pattern that you want to create. So you have your printed and you have your woven. And the printed ties, they look a lot more dull. They look a lot more dull, a lot less lustrous when held up against a woven tie. So you want a woven tie. The difference is if you're buying a $12 tie at a stand versus a $100 tie at a store, or even a $300 tie, like when you go to Hermes and things like that, is that the higher end ties are always going to be woven and the lower end ties are going to be printed. And you want to go with the woven tie because it's more lustrous, it looks better. It's not like a printed tie is going to look very flat. In fact, for those of you that know the difference, a printed tie looks cheap. So don't buy a cheap tie. It looks cheap. Like anything you buy that's very cheap is going to look cheap. So when it comes to your dress in a business meeting, you don't want to look like the cheap guy. That's just the situation. So here's an example of one of our, and this is pretty high, I mean, this is very high quality. This is a woven tie, and it just has a tremendous amount of luster, and I can do this with a couple of different colors here. I'll put out purple for you. So this has just a tremendous, you can see just a tremendous luster. Like it's got that sheen. It's made out of silk. It's 100% woven, not printed. Another way to tell that a tie is woven, really simple. Look at the logo. This is not something that's stitched on, meaning that it's not like a label. This is literally woven into the fabric. So this was designed and woven as the tie was being woven itself. This is not 3D. This is 2-dimensional. And even it's not a monogram. It's literally woven in from the start. And this logo, the way that it's done here, you can see it's 2-dimensional, woven into the fabric, shows that it's a woven tie, super high quality. The next thing about a tie is how many folds of silk go into the tie. Good ties, of course, are made of silk. So you can have a tie that has very little silk in it, meaning that it will not feel very substantial, it will feel very thin. The highest end ties are 7 folds. So the silk is folded over into 7 layers, creating a substantial, thick, like a very substantial tie. And you can tell that it's 7. I'll show you how you can tell it's 7-fold. You ready? It's when you open it up, you're going to see layers. You see there's layers here. Okay? You're going to see layers. And so these layers, and there's more inside that you cannot see because they're woven inside the tie. But the way this is woven with the folds, there you go again, you can see just how substantial this tie is. So when you put it on, it has like a nice sort of a substantial fullness to it. It also, why is that important? I'll tell you why it's important. Number one, the tie doesn't look wrinkly when you untie it. Like this tie's been tied and retied. It looks perfect. And you guys know what I'm talking about. You have that tie that you untie and it just looks like crap. You don't want that. So it's got a lot of substantiality to it. It maintains its shape. It maintains its drape. Right? It has that nice hang to it all the time. It doesn't weigh itself out. Some cheaper ties would, the stuff would pull to the bottom. And it is 7-fold. For that reason, you also see that it's a woven, not a printed tie. And it has that nice luster to it, that nice sheen to it. Check it out. I'm going to show you guys the box here. There's some ties in here. And they all just look fantastic. And that's what you want to look for in a tie. You want to look at the fact that it's woven, made out of silk, and has many layers. 7-fold, hand-folded 7-fold ties are the highest quality in the world. And that's the difference between low end and high end. Hope that helps. Cheers.